Chris, Liege Games, let's do this. Crowdfunding roundup this week. There are a lot of, just like I said, very solid games this week. A little bit for everyone, a little bit of, mechanisms, uniqueness, all over the place. So it's just, I love seeing this stuff because none of this stuff is like world beaters. None of this stuff also is like super FOMO. So you can get it, and several of the campaigns are actually even like, hey, you can also just go pick it up later if you want to, because we're not trying to make you back it now, which is really refreshing at times. I like the transparency. So, as always, if you like it, smash the like, smash the subscribe, and let's go, because that's all the preamble we got this week. So we're going to kick off, actually, with the biggest surprise of the week, not because it was a hit, but because it's such a hit. $1.2 million in literally less than 24 hours so far, not even at 24 hours, nearly at this point, of Deep Rock Galactic, which is pretty ridiculous, actually. I mean, I knew people liked the video game, but wow, this is really impressive. And stay with me here for a second. It gives me vibes, and this is maybe why it's more appealing than something like the recently adapted IP, similarly from the video game side of things, of something like Borderlands, which again was cooperative as well. It gives me vibes of Cthulhu Death May Die. Now again, hear me out here. Simple, cooperative gameplay, easy to get through, multiple actions that you can choose from, very team-based, hex-based situations, which I know it's not hex-based in Cthulhu, but it's scenario-based. It's something that people are familiar with. It looks easy to get to the table. I read through the rule book earlier this afternoon, and it was an easy read. It's easy to understand. It's easy to take your turns, but there's still a lot of tactical nature to it. Now, do you see where I'm going with that? Now that makes a lot of sense. Now, the question just is it worth getting on crowdfunding or not? And if you're going to get one of the deluxeifications, well then, yeah, probably it is. But the interesting thing here, they've gone with a $75 pledge for just the standees with just the 4 dwarven miniatures, which I'm a big fan of. Now, again, how much of the other stuff are you going to miss out on, and how big of a deal is this? Because look at this. This is not just a small price point. Because when you see the other campaigns and do standees in the past, it's like 10, 15 bucks, difference. And people are like, oh yeah, 10, 15 bucks, maybe I'll get the miniatures. 75 for the standard edition pledge here. 125 for the deluxe edition. That's a bigger difference than I would have expected. Now, again, obviously they have different stretch goals for different levels. And the collector's pledge in and of itself is going to get you this marker and this expansion. And the expansion, again, looks like it's a miniature expansion. So do you get the standee version that doesn't match the miniature expansion? And you're getting a neoprene game mat, which when I look at this board up here, I don't think a neoprene game mat would actually be a bad thing at all. That might be the more preferred add-on than anything else. Art prints, mouse pads, sleeves, STL files, whatever. But it looks like a very solid game from that. And I say that as someone who read through the rulebook and someone who has absolutely no affiliation with the IP. I have no clue what this game was about 2.5 months ago. None whatsoever before it came onto my radar as coming to crowdfunding. So I'm not like a fanboy-ish, saying this is the greatest thing since sliced bread or Gloomhaven. So there you go. It's got a little bit of everything. They break it down here. They give you all of the little stuff here that you need to know and what actions you're going to be taking and the mechanics. And again, it's a scenario based. So you're trying to achieve certain objectives and make it back to the pod to escape. And you're going to be moving along this hex-based grid up to 3 spaces on your move action and then taking other actions along your turn. You're going to be throwing things, shooting things, using a flamethrower. Yes, you heard me right there. A flamethrower. You're going to be collecting ores and going about and doing your thing. They've got a few stretch goals already hit here. Now, again, deluxe, extra missions, deluxe, extra stuff, deluxe, extra stuff, extra stuff, extra stuff, extra stuff, extra stuff, deluxe, extra stuff, deluxe. And so you've got a little bit of both there. So it's nice to see that it's like, not everything is deluxe stretch goal. And even if you get this as $25, that's still $100. That's still a considerable amount less than the other 2 pledge levels. Neoprene mats at another 25. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a better deal if you get it all. I mean, it usually is. But I'm okay with just being piecemealed. So, by the way, can I just say, love the beards. Love the beards, gentlemen. Love the beards. But that's it. That is Deep Rock Galactic. Definitely give it check out, especially if you're looking for something more along the lines of Cthulhu Death May Die, and you don't have that to begin with. So there you go. Mind management, secret missions. And so there's a little bit of something new because they're basically breaking down the previous pledges. You can get the retail version, you can get the upgrade, or you can get the deluxe. And Shut Up and Sit Down's review is all over the place in terms of popularity. And so that definitely played into it, I think, a little bit. Because there also wasn't a clear time frame on when it was going to be available again. Because I don't think it's been widely available for a while now. I think it's been pretty well sold out. And I have a copy sitting over there. We'll zoom in for this second. This is my review copy. So I need to like figure out, because I haven't gotten it to the table yet, whether or not this has like all the stuff I need. Because I'm concerned a little bit that there's some component damage in here. But I haven't had a full time to investigate. And so that's probably what I'll be doing after this video is made. To see if I need to pick up a full copy or, you know, just what the deluxe versions have, because, yeah. But, you know, everyone says it's a good game, but let's talk about that for a minute. They actually have a list down here of like, yeah, right at the top. All of the people that you may have heard of and may not have heard of, ranking it in their best games of 2021. It might have been on my list, but I didn't get it played in 2021. So... yeah. Here you go. Deluxe version, all stretch goals from the first campaign. I guess what this was secret missions that when you completed a mission, you got a code, you decoded it, you went to the website, they gave you this mission card that you can use for gameplay. And so they're just basically giving you it in print copy instead of making you print it and do it yourself. And I mean, it's $89, I think. Yeah, $89. And then the upgrade kit, the wooden kit, is $12. If you already have the retail. And then if you just want the secret envelopes, it's another $7. So, like I said, I need to figure this out. Now, I saw people commenting online, like, they're like, I don't think I'd ever get the deluxe because I feel like I was missing out. And I'm looking at this going, okay, deluxe, game trays, wooden tokens, screen with pockets, tokens, wooden. Okay. I mean, I maybe I'm missing something. And, you know, there is something to be said of sometimes of these aesthetic value games. And which is really weird on the mechanical side of things with this, because I see people deride this all over the place, and then they have apparently decided that it's not actually a bad system in the first place as a one versus all. You know, I hear a lot of critiques and a lot of criticisms of one versus all across the board when it's in any other game or category. And so I think this just shows that, hey guys, maybe one versus all really isn't that bad. Maybe it's really actually a kind of cool gameplay mechanism and thing to do. It's not just a one-hit wonder. So anyway, solo co-op, I have no idea how to actually play it yet because, like I said, I haven't played it. There's enough quotes here. There's enough everything on here that there should be no doubts, no questions. There's the big review right there and all the other big people right there. And download the rules, download everything else you need, and it's killing it. And so I guess the only question is, how high is it going to go? Again, it's a niche game, but it's opening a lot of doors for people. So if you're interested, check it out. Next up, Astro Knights, 61,000. Again, sort of wasn't sure what to expect with this one in terms of funding, because it doesn't have the Aeon's End theme, it doesn't have the Aeon's End stamp, but it is Aeon's End streamlined and simplified in slightly different and more nuanced ways, which is really interesting. When you're subscribed to a Board Game Geek page like this, when something launches, it's very, very intriguing to see. They must have had sort of a moratorium or a blanket on when people could launch stuff and put stuff out, because all of a sudden everything populated on Board Game Geek today. Everything the day that this launched. And the one criticisms that I saw across the board was some of these enemies. And we'll talk about the commonalities and the differences here in a minute. I read through some of the reviews. I looked at some of this earlier. And so again, it's taking a streamlined space-faring fantasy approach to Aeon's End. And they're adding a little bit of a different market. They're adding a different boss style. And they're adding a little bit of how you interact slightly differently. And because you're also going to be powering up your character and their ability against these bosses. Now, in the reviews that I read on Board Game Geek, they talked about having 5 different bosses. And the bosses having their own mini decks, which being one of the main differences. And the blessing curse that they said was, well, you know, after you've played this boss, you know, 2 or 3 times, you're going to know most of the cards that the boss has, and it's not going to be a surprise. There's not going to be a whole lot of variability necessarily in that side of things. So if you really want more variability, the Aeon's End is going to give it to you more. But if you want more streamlined and more direct, this is going to give it to you. Now, interestingly enough, I didn't see too many, although people like talked about the comparisons, they didn't really give much more than just that statement right there in terms of get one or the other. I didn't see too many of them saying, you know, if you have one, you really don't need the other. And so I guess that would be the main question is, Do you want something more streamlined? Do you want something a little bit easier to get to the table? The one nice review I read said, if you're going to play it 30 times, go get Aeon's End. If you're going to play it 5 times, you need to have a harder time getting to the table in general, get Astro Knights. So as someone who is all in Aeon's End, for someone who's all in on Aeon's End, that makes me lean towards Aeon's End at this point and maybe not do this. I don't know. Yeah, they're giving you mechanism approaches. I like everything I'm seeing on the page. The 5 bosses that they apparently had out to people, or 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess. Whatever it was. And what's in the box, though, we'll see. And you're getting the expansion, which I don't know if people talked about. I didn't see that mentioned explicitly on the reviews, so I can't talk to whether or not it was there. You have mats here. Yeah, those are just the Aeon's End boss cards, essentially. And then what else are we getting here? Yeah, I'm not really sure what's the Orion system. An expansion, daily milestone cards. So this is what we're going to be waiting and seeing. So this is something that you tune into at the end of the campaign. You hit a save like you already have, like I do, and you can see what comes out at the very end. So there's going to be some exclusives. There's going to be some promos. That's what indie boarding cards does. And so it's ultimately always a better value with their games, with the promo expansion included. But I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about that. And at $39, which is the non-playmat version, I think that's actually a great deal. Like, I'm tempted to do it because, again, I like the game, and I don't think you'll lose money on that with the promo and the expansion included. Even with the shipping, I don't think I get the playmat. I mean, playmats are nice, but I just find that, again, if you're telling me you're trying to streamline the setup, having to get out a mat and put stuff on the right places in the right mat spots doesn't seem more streamlined to me. So I'm interested to see just what those stretch goals and what those promos are. So otherwise, I'm probably going to be backing this. I am just going to wait until they have more of those revealed. But 61,000 first day, check it out. Next up, Rolling Heights, 65,000. So I mean, the wealth is being spread relatively equally between games this week. There's nothing gangbusters, but all of these are like solid funding. So John declares next iteration of Kubitos, essentially, is his Rolling Heights, where you're rolling meeples instead of dice. But it gives me heavy Kubitos vibes, and I, as someone who's played Kubitos now and understands it more after a hands-on sampling, I look down at some of these, past all the videos, past all the pump, looking at like the storage and looking at the division of what you're going to be using and building. Let's see if I can find the components here. Yeah, the big thing about Kubitos was the irritating thing was like there's so many different cubes and so many different boxes, and you're trying to always constantly go back and forth, and it's kind of got the same thing here, only with meeples. And so that's probably the most tedious thing about Kubitos. And is that going to make you feel good doing it with meeples and cubes as opposed to just dice? I don't know. Again, I don't think there's a whole lot of question of whether or not this is going to be a solid game. It's just a question of, is it a solid enough game for you to pick up on Kickstarter crowdfunding and get the bonus tiles and the mini game included with it, which is like the little gorilla guy down here, right here, or not? Can you go without that and maybe save yourself 20 bucks later at retail? Is it that important to you? I mean, they're giving you incentive to get it now, but they're also saying, well, this stuff isn't make it or break it either. So, you know, go get it at retail and support us there too. So that's about it. I mean, you're rolling these meeples, you're getting your resources, you're building towers, you're pressing your luck, and you're trying to not let King Kong knock him down with his little mini expansion there. So that's it. I'm interested to see this one. I don't know if this is for me. This is probably for me. Just like with the last one, Meeples and Monsters, it's probably a try before I buy. I don't think I can necessarily do this, but I'm going to definitely check out the rulebook and watch a little bit of the gameplay just to get a better sense, because I do love me some quacks. I like Kubitos, but I'm not sure whether or not it's going to be a stayer in my collection. And because of that and the similarities in general to this, not specifically necessarily, I'm going to be a little bit cautious, but that's Rolling Heights. Next up, we have Unfair with their latest expansion, Comic Book, Hacker, Kaiju, and Ocean. Well, plus solo mode. So again, this is just a very solid sort of engine building, create your own park style game. And it has some more take that, but it also has some combos and some blocking and just some more player interaction, as opposed to their other iteration of this that people have, you know, that don't like, you know, player interaction, Funfair, where it's sort of, you know, the multiplayer solitaire. So this is combo after combo after combo. Blueprint goals here is something else they're doing as well. And I mean, again, with these packs, it's just kind of pick and choose and go. And so you can play however you want. You can solo mode it, and again, I guess you can bling it. Again, this is what I like. This is what I was talking about earlier. Currently available at retail. Well, you can also add it on here if you really want. Also, back it now. But if you don't want to and you want to do it later, that's okay too. We're okay with that. I love tableau building. I love card playing. I think this is very unique. I like what I see, and it's sort of a game right up my ilk. I have no clue whether or not I'm going to be good at it, but just some of these themes are just kind of cool. I like the idea of hacker. I love the idea of kaiju. I mean, again, hello, I love Japanese games in general, so I'm very interested in both of those. Ocean, I have no idea, but my kids love penguins, so I'm all in right there already. And so the question is going to be, you know, if you pick this up at retail, because I think you can do it pretty well easily at Board Game Geek too, on, you know, some resales there. Do you just get the new expansion here? Because I'm guessing, let's take a look here. $40. Okay, that's a lot more than I was expecting. All stretch goals included. Requires base game to play. Okay. Mix one theme pack per player to make your decks, and new cards, mechanisms, combo weird and wonderful ways, which I'm all about being weird and wonderful. That's like my theme of this channel in general. So 91 theme pack pairs and 14 theme packs that you can choose from. Game changers bend the rules as well, so that's great. I mean, you don't need a ton to make it, you know, that good or to have that much variability, and they've got enough here. So solo mode, what's in the box? So what are we getting though? What's the stretch goals? What are we looking at here? Component add-ons, great, great, great. Neoprene mat, divider system. More games could use their own divider system, if you ask me. Let's see, bonus reveals. What are we looking at here? I'm not seeing any stretch goals, although you tell me stretch goals on the side. Oh, okay, here we go. They're going to be doing a new bonus item. They're just going to presume that they're going to get all their targets met, and so instead of just FOMOing you, they're just going to reveal them, regardless of the exact total count. So, thank you. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. Good Games USA. Good job for doing that. That's a way to approach it to make people not feel like they're chasing something or falsely getting things that they aren't necessarily... or falsely making them chase things that they're going to get anyway. So I like that. Unfair expansion. Check it out. Very solid. 115,000. I just wanted you to know, like, these next couple games, and so you can see really how evenly the money is spread. Just as a side note right here, Wreckland Run, $76,000. Iron Forest, $66,000. And so we've got two right there, just like with the other two that I just mentioned a minute ago. So Wreckland Run, I didn't actually know this was part of a series by Renegade Game Studios, and I think this one's by Scott Alms, as it says. Warp's Edge is also like in the line of this trilogy. I have no idea about that. I just looked at it and I looked at the pedigree and I said, this is probably going to be a relatively solid solo game. And definitely when I hear that it's by the same people and the same company that's putting out Warp's Edge, then that makes me go, okay, well then it becomes less of a quality control or a question mark. And so this was the only game when I did the video last week on, you know, upcoming games, the one that I had a question mark on. And now I look at this and I go, yeah, no wonder it's got like $76,000 funded. Do you need everything? Do you need a playmat and card sleeves? Well, no, probably not. You can deal with just the $40. And if you want to get all the Warp's Edge, I have no idea whether or not that's a good deal. But, I mean, there you go. Campaign book even. So it's like a campaign roll and write, essentially, which is kind of cool. And it's just sort of a solo campaign game, and it's Mad Max meets board games. I don't know. I'm not having a good analogy there, but it's just kind of cool. Now you're getting the Fallout expansion here as well, particularly colored, interestingly, on Fallout there. I wonder if that's just a nod, an ode, an Easter egg, or I wonder if they've actually gotten a little bit of permission to do that. My guess is it's not the latter. New expansion to Warp's Edge as well. So if you're a fan of Warp's Edge, this might be worth picking up. I'm not a big solo person, but this is one of the few games that's intrigued me as a solo only game, just because I think I could get my kids to play like alongside of me, and I think that would be really interesting. I have no idea if this new players, new motherboards, new enemy ships and challenges is something to be wanting or it's something you need or not. But let's go back to Wreckland's Run here. Get your driver, do your chapter, pick your difficulty. 3 rounds, 2 phases, wreckage, and run. And then you fight the final boss. So again, this has been like the last couple months have been really solid for solo games, and this is just another one. You can get the previous expansion for Warp's Edge, upgrades, previews, tons of videos, all that stuff, blah 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 blah. So again, Renegade Game Studios. Didn't know what to expect with this, but this looks solid, especially when you've got something else with a good pedigree out there that you're including in it. And I can see why over 1,100 people are already backing. So check it out. Speaking of pedigrees, Iron Forest from the makers of Ice Cool. If you're familiar with the flicking game in the ice setting, it's just kind of awesome. $66,000, almost identical funding. And this is a multi-level sort of take that team versus team Worms Armageddon Scorched Earth style flicking game with powers and abilities and everything along the way. So it's just kind of cool. Now, I'm not any good at these type of games. Now you're adding a 3D 2-level board. That's just going to make me even more horrible at it. But you can launch your own guys onto the top shelf. So that's kind of freaking fantastic. Again, the only question was when I looked at this and I saw this was what was the price going to be on a 3D, essentially, especially with these launchers thing. So $85. I mean, that's expensive for a dexterity game. Especially when we talk about another one that's just launched on the same day, that's a third of that price. So again, this has the aesthetic appeal. This has a lot of the bling. This has a lot of the deluxeifications. And do you need that in a game, let alone a dexterity game? Because it's kind of like a Euro game. Like I buy it for the gameplay, not necessarily the bling like I buy with my other Ameritrash games. Your asymmetric people are your mechs here, and kind of runs through all of them there. You've got scenarios that you're going to be trying to run through or do as well in terms of each game. And they've got a bunch there and a bunch of upgrades and power-up effects that you can be using. Your dice, your turnover markers, all of that fun stuff. Wild power-ups, specific scenario actions in a battle for survival. Choose your scenario, place your mechs on the positions, get your cards out, draw your card, and flick your mech, complete the objectives, and win. So, again, this looks solid. It's just whether or not you want to pay $85 for this type of game, because that's a lot of money. That being said, I'm not surprised by it either, because the 3D element, because that is becoming more expensive. So I understand it either way. And I think that's about it. And you're going to get sleeves with that as well. So if you really want sleeves, that's the other question. So Brain Games USA put on a solid game there. Not surprised it's at where it's at. So check it out. We'll just go straight into the other dexterity game that launched, Floating Force. I had a copy of this. My review is out on the channel. And this is a really good game. It's not going to be for everybody. It's small budget. It's small box, but it works and it's really good for what it is. And so if you're looking for something completely different that's in your collection, especially if you like dexterity, especially if you like the next level of animal upon animal, because that's a highly underrated game as a kid's game that's actually very cutthroat. This is just a better version of it as an adult game that you can take anywhere and play in teams or play just 1 versus 1. It's just something completely different. Don't let the aesthetic fool you. You're placing down white or black pieces to balance boards, and then you're putting ninjas and other pieces on top of those boards, trying to traverse across only on your color spaces to get to these little markers on the side. But when you get to the markers on the side, you have to twist the board 90 degrees in the direction that the marker tells you, and if anything falls off at any point, you basically get penalized and lose your turn. And so it's rinse and repeat to make a way across all of these to get all of yours before the other person or the other team. Now you're going to be putting pieces on this top level, like I said. And so what you're going to be doing is those pieces are going to count for like a black space there. So you can hop from black space to black space to black space. But if you run out of contiguous ones, then you have to stop. And that makes it look really easy, because that's the other tricky part, is you can't just jump from one spot to the end. You have to literally pick the guy up, put him down on every single one, including balancing on those little cubes. And let me be very clear, balancing on those little cubes is a lot harder than that video makes. And that, plus the 90-degree spin, is where the challenge comes in, because you're also able to, when you're placing down the pieces that you can walk on, you can take them from other parts of the board, or even underneath being the pieces that are holding them up. So it's cool, it's unique, it's priced really, really well, $25 US. So again, it's good. I don't have any problems with it. It's just whether or not dexterity is for you. If it's not, then this probably is going to change your mind, but it's something completely different. And so I think that you should check it out if you're interested. My video is right there, actually. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And my video was only 9 minutes too, so it wasn't like a long, me rambling on for 30 minutes about a small dexterity game, but it's solid. And I'm a little surprised this is only at 6,500 in the first day, but I would be shocked if this doesn't fund in the next couple days, and they deserve it because it's a good game. But yeah, check it out if you're interested. Next up, we went with Queen. Now, you'll notice at the top here I'm backing because they have an early bird, but I have mixed feelings about Queens because they have these Queenies, or they're exclusives, and they haven't always had the most accurate time tracking in terms of these games, and I just never feel like I have a good sense of how the game actually plays. Now they have a little bit more on the page here than they do previously, and I never believe this MSRP because I never see Queen games going for this much money on the secondary market, but it reminds me at least a little bit initially in terms of the drafting and the different piles and the having to assemble the buildings in the numerical order descending, I think, of Copenhagen, where you're sort of building and assembling and drafting and trying to collect. So I just don't have a great sense of how exactly what the nuances are going to be and whether or not this game has any staying power. They've got all these bundles here with their other previous games, which is fine. Bunch of videos, bunch of rules, the gameplay. They give you enough here that you're going to be trying to construct a section of the new bridge, and there are 6 different buildings. They all get unique actions, but you have to have them in descending order, like I mentioned. Otherwise, you have to like restart and go all over. Now, there's something along the lines of here. They say in the center of the board is a rondel. So it's how much you're going to get rewarded for a certain type of building. So, I mean, that could be variable scoring as well. I don't know. Queen games are very hit or miss for me. I have Luxor, I have Copenhagen, I have Runestones. Runestones is good with the expansions, but it's almost too much overhead to get to the table. And Copenhagen is a fine game for like a polyomino type game. But again, I just don't see it getting to the table that often. Luxor is a great game for my kids as well. And it's probably my favorite of the 3, although I haven't given Copenhagen probably the fair enough shake. So again, you're going to be getting a little bit of upgraded, I believe. Maybe not. They're just going with the $5 early bird, essentially. Content includes an expansion. So I don't see anything else here in terms of why getting it now, apart from the expansion. Now, I guess there's enough on here that I'm a little surprised that this has more than a few of the other most recent Queen games. So hopefully this gives a better sense, and I'll probably be watching this later. So that is Old London Bridge. Check it out. Last up this week, we have Kalinasu, the immersive adventure escape game. So this is an escape game in a box. It's a big escape game in a box. It has all of that. And again, as we've seen on crowdfunding, as we've seen at the retail side of things, this is funding and it's doing really well. Again, $50,000 is nothing to sneeze at when we're talking about this sort of thing, because I don't see the appeal. Again, I have none of these in my collection. It just doesn't do it for me. The replay value doesn't do it for me. I'm just not this type of person. Like, I'd rather go do a crossword puzzle. That's where my mindset is at. So all my crossword brothers out there, beware. Shout out to you guys. Traditional puzzles, immersive digital puzzles, exploration puzzles, advanced puzzles. Again, I know this is a thing for a lot of people. And I guess the question is, like, I don't have a lot of experience with this. So how can you tell you're getting a good thing here without being spoiled? I don't know. And this is a lot of money compared to the other ones that are proven products. Are you really going to be getting 4 to 6 times your money's worth with one of these as opposed to 4 or 6 of one of the other ones? And I don't know. Again, deluxe packaging and deluxe artifacts for over $100. Pass. Thank you. No, thank you. I understand why people like it, but that, speaking of a ton of money, I mean, if this or Deep Rock, I know where I'm going with this. This or 2 or 3 other things on the list, you know where my money's going. But for all of you that are looking for something, again, I wish I could give you more insight, but I have no clue what makes this one stand out compared to the others, except for maybe some of the digital component. Because otherwise it looks like a mystery grab bag to me, like one of those board game subscription services, if you will, where it's sort of like, hey, you might get one good game, and then you're going to kind of get 3 others that you've never heard of that they use the MSRP value to justify the price of the box in the first place. Would you just be better off picking up a couple of these that are already proven quantities and qualities at retail side of things? That's just something to think about, but there you go. That's it. That's a roundup this week. Whew. I wasn't kidding. I told you so. Just very, very, very solid stuff, top to bottom. I mean, there is not a weak link. This may be the most complete week in crowdfunding that I have ever covered on a weekly video, in terms of like the highs to the lows, not only because, I mean, all of the stuff funded, and a lot of it is funding well above its funding, and all of it is doing really significantly well. And I definitely cannot say that about a lot of weeks, and most weeks, in fact, almost every week. And so this is just a very solid week. And I love seeing that, because again, a lot of variety in here as well too, which is exciting. A lot of new stuff and just cool stuff. Now, whether or not it's for you, I mean, that's a whole nother thing, but you have to look at it and go, wow, this is good for our hobby. This is diversifying across the board. So That's all I got right now. If you missed it yesterday, I put out the January roundup. So if you want to check that out, check that out. My top games that I played in January. I played 22 new games in January. 22 new games. So all of you that had the over under on me completing my shelf of opportunity as the under, you better be careful because I'm really going to try and get that taken care of. Other than that, I got a bunch of stuff that I just need to get to the table. I have had a really crappy week in terms of I don't think I've played anything like all week. And I have like half a dozen games now. All of a sudden, this last week, things have just like flown in. I got like 2 or 3 review copies. I got 2 or 3 prototypes. And I got Nemesis Lockdown as well as Aeon's End Legacy of Gravehold. So, I mean, I just got a ton of stuff all within this short period of time. So, that's what I'm going to be trying to play something this weekend. I don't know. The motivation is not high right now because I'm also working all weekend. So, yeah, I mean, I think I've got 3 small card games that I think I'm going to try and play. One of which is Regicide, one of which is an abstract card laying game, and then another is a upcoming prototype by the same designer who brought you the other one back there, Mechanical Beast, that nice puzzly sort of find your way in and out sort of game. So, and spoilers, that one is a solo game. So all you solo people now, you have even more of a reason to tune into me. So there you go. That's all I got. And ramble over. Peace. Fiend. Din. Have a great weekend. Stay classy. I'll see you around.